Florida for the Honda CBR Challenge Final. 40 of the best riders in the United States. And to explain how they got here, Patrick Murphy.
That's good. Honda put together a schedule of 63 qualifying races that basically were selected club races from around the country, the regular weekend events that these riders attend normally. There were in 11 different regions. We made sure that riders from every corner of the United States had a chance to participate in these races. And basically they just went out, raced their Honda motorcycle in the class that was appropriate to this machine in this series, and then were scored based on their overall finish against all of those machines. Once those races were done, we tabulated points on a regional basis, crowned champions for each of those 11 regions, and used those points totals, those regional points totals, to set our grid positions here at Daytona.
So it's all down to a Florida finale for these riders and their 160-mile-per-hour Hondas. The front row of the grid, Danny Roberts in pole, Billy Eisenacher in second place, Brock McAllister third, and Robert C. Meister in fourth place. That's the front row. Larry Locklear, Brian Kent, Ivan Simoff, and Damon Carr on the second row of the grid. Let's have a quick rundown of the technical regulations. Patrick Murphy again.
In the Championship Cup Series, which hosted this event for Honda this weekend, there's a class called Super Sport. Basically, that's stock production motorcycle racing. It doesn't allow for any modifications of the engines or transmissions. There are some minor things we do let them do. They can put on a racing exhaust system. They can put a steering dampener or a stiffener into their handlebar system, and they can change their final gearing. They have to use street legal, Department of Transportation approved treaded tires. There's no racing slicks here. The concept is to keep the machines as close to stock as possible and to keep the competition affordable for a privateer racer who's paying his own bills.
The green light for 10 laps of the Daytona Speedway, and it's Danny Roberts and Billy Eisenacher who get the whole shot into the first corner. 40 identically mounted riders. And it's disaster for Scott Gray out of Santa Rosa, California. He's off the track at the very first corner. That's the end of his race. Meanwhile, Danny Roberts from West Palm Beach, Florida, hits the front. The rest of the field taking it carefully in the early stages of the race. Still a long way to go. It's Danny Roberts holding on, but Thomas Wilson out of Oregon, Ohio, goes through on the inside to take up the lead. It's Thomas Wilson now at the front of the field. Battle already developing for second place between Danny Roberts and Larry Locklear, who goes through on the inside. Let's have a word meanwhile with the unfortunate Scott Gray.
As you know, I have a broken leg. I broke my leg 4 weeks ago, and it's going to be difficult for me to get in the same old banging that I like to do and usually do, but hopefully with a little finesse I'll work my way to the front. Our lap time seems to ride competitive with the other two top Hondas, and I think it's going to be tough. You know, there's one bike out there that's real fast. Rick Kirk's bike's got a little bit of shoot off the corner. And I'm not real sure how it's going to handle in the thing. Top speed's all pretty much the same on most of the bikes.
As we rejoin the action, that super fast bike belonging to Rick Kirk is currently lying in fourth place. But out front, it's still Thomas Wilson. Larry Locklear in second place. And Danny Roberts holding on to that third spot. But the man to watch out for is definitely Rick Kirk. He's settled down after the start. They're on the banking now, tucked in to minimize the wind resistance, and through goes Larry Locklear. Larry Locklear the long way round the outside. No drafting that time. Around the banking. But Rick Kirk showing there just how quick that motorcycle really is. Kirk on the number 21 machine. It's Larry Locklear leading. Thomas Wilson in second place. Wilson goes through to take the lead. The action fast and furious at the front of the field. Four-man fighting it out. And at the head of them, it's Thomas Wilson. Wilson leads. Locklear in second place. Rick Kirk biding his time in that third position. Locklear taking the long way round the outside. 5 is Danny Roberts in fourth position. And that leading group group has been joined by another rider. But out front, it's still Thomas Wilson on the banking one more time, and there's a three-man breakaway. Wilson it is that leads, Locklear in second place, but Rick Kirk powers through to make an attempt on the inside. You get the feeling that he's just weighing up the situation, biding his time to see exactly at what part of the circuit he can make his move. Onto the banking again, and it's still Thomas Wilson with the advantage from Locklear, but Locklear about to get the treatment from Kirk. Rick Kirk goes into second place, and just look at the power of that 900cc Honda. Kirk hits the front. Rick Kirk leads, Wilson in second place. Locklear is now third. Rick Kirk out of Claremore, Oklahoma, leads this final of this Honda CBR Challenge. Remember, treaded stock road tyres have to be used in this race, and Kirk was just finding out the limits of adhesion there. He got it back. There was a twitch from the rear end, a twitch there too from Larry Locklear as the rear end protests at the power of the Honda. Rick Kirk, Thomas Wilson and Larry Locklear, the 1, 2, 3. We'll be back with more great action from Daytona in just a moment. Welcome back to the Daytona Speedway on Prime Network, where Rick Kirk is in the lead of this final of the Honda CBR Challenge. Kirk ahead of Thomas Wilson and Larry Locklear, with Jamie Bowman on the number 157 machine coming up behind in fourth position. Kirk it is, though, who seems to have an advantage over the high-speed banking of the Daytona circuit. And Bowman now getting the slingshot off the banking to move up into third position. Jamie Bowman is third. The next man on his target list is Thomas Wilson, but a long way now in front is Rick Kirk. An absolutely brilliant performance from him so far. That motorcycle absolutely superbly prepared. He's done everything he can to give himself an edge around this Daytona Speedway. Rick Kirk on the infield. Bowman now has gone up into second place ahead of Thomas Wilson, but Wilson's fighting back. He goes the long way around the outside. Meanwhile, Bowman holds the inside line, but it's not good enough. Wilson grabs back that second place. Still out front, though, it's Rick Kirk. Wilson in second place. Bowman is third, but coming under pressure again from 280 Larry Locklear on that all-black bike. Locklear overdoing it on that corner, running too wide. And the tyres are definitely protesting at the treatment being dished out by Larry Locklear. Rick Kirk leads, Wilson in second place. And Rick Kirk, well, it's getting lonely for him out on the banking because he's opened up an advantage now. He can't rest on his laurels. We caught up with Kirk earlier and asked him just what modifications you could make to these bikes.
Basically, everybody's running the same motorcycle. You're allowed 1 millimeter overbore and a valve job, basically. You can't remove, any parts such as starter, alternator, anything like that. They want to keep them looking as showroom stock as they can. And so it makes for really close racing. And, one of the things, especially with Daytona, is having experience with the draft and how to work the draft.
As we rejoin the action with 6 laps to go, it's pretty clear that Rick Kirk has learnt how to use the draft to his advantage because he's way out front. Kirk in terrific form. Wilson second. Bowman is third, ahead of Larry Locklear in fourth place. Wilson has his sights set on the rapidly disappearing figure of Rick Kirk ahead of him. Out on the banking. There's no drafting advantage to be had this time around, but it certainly looks as if Jamie Bowman's machine has a power advantage over the bike of 37 Thomas Wilson. Bowman moves into second place. Chin flat on the tank before sitting up to brake for the corner is Bowman with the advantage, and Bowman in second place. Now, can he set off after Rick Kirk? First of all, he has to fight off the challenge from Wilson. Meanwhile, Kirk is out on his own. He has to keep concentrating hard on putting in consistent laps, not making any mistakes. He doesn't want to get involved in a fight. Wilson, meanwhile, has grabbed back that second place. He seems to be quicker around the infield, while Bowman has the advantage out on the flat-out high-speed banking here at Daytona. Wilson in second spot, the man from Oregon, Ohio. But the race leader is still Rick Kirk, high up on the banking. Just look at the determination. And that's the advantage that he has. It's a very healthy one indeed. Kirk into the infield, flicking it left and then right. He's definitely the master of that CBR900 Honda, which has proved to be the fastest bike out here today. Meanwhile, the scrap for second place goes on. Up onto the banking one more time. Wilson from Bowman. Locklear bringing up the rear of that three-man battle. Again, Bowman comes from behind. Dives down the banking. They come perilously close together. But Wilson still ahead as they emerge. And coming from behind this time, it's Locklear that takes up the fight. Locklear goes through into second place. So, a fantastic scrap for that second position. It's Locklear from Wilson and Bowman. These identical machines providing some fantastic racing for this second position. Locklear goes wide though. It doesn't look like he's got the infield handling of his machine sorted out very well, and he paid the penalty then. It's clear that Rick Kirk has got that motorcycle set up perfectly for the Daytona Speedway. Every time on the infield corners, Locklear's going wide. So he's obviously got it set to cope with the banking, but he hasn't got the compromise right. On the infield, Wilson definitely has the advantage. Plenty of interest from the media in this Honda CBR final. A final that Rick Kirk is making very much his own. We'll be back with the climax to this terrific race in just a few moments' time here on Prime Network. Welcome back on Prime Network to the Daytona Speedway in Florida and the Honda CBR Challenge Final. Rick Kirk is way out in front, but there's a fantastic fight going on for that second place. Three men disputing the runner-up position in this final. And as they come off the banking this time around, it's Thomas Wilson who has the advantage, but Locklear goes through. Larry Locklear taking up that second place from Thomas Wilson, with Jamie Bowman in fourth position. Oh, through on the inside, well, through on the inside, tried to go 37, Thomas Wilson, but Locklear closed the door on him, didn't leave him any room at all. However, this time Thomas Wilson goes through. Every lap so far on that corner, Locklear has run wide. He obviously hasn't got the steering quite fixed correctly for the infield sections of this Daytona Speedway, and he pays the penalty for it on the tight portions of the track. Yet again he goes wide, and Wilson's able to hammer home his advantage. It's Wilson from Locklear and Jamie Bowman bringing up the rear of that three-man group, fighting out second place. It's still Thomas Wilson with the advantage. He leans that bike all the way over to the left and goes on to the banking yet again. It's Wilson, Locklear and Bowman. Bowman's at the back. He may well have an advantage because he's used the draft created by Locklear in order to dive down the banking. Meanwhile, out front, it's a lonely life for Rick Kirk on the number 21 machine. He's literally never put a wheel wrong. He's absolutely on form. And that's the advantage he's got over the fight for second place. Now it's Jamie Bowman who zoomed through into second spot. Larry Locklear third and Thomas Wilson in fourth position. The place is changing all the time. Nobody can gain the upper hand at the moment. Nobody can make the breakaway. And time is running out because the next time they cross the finish line, there'll be just one lap left of this Daytona Speedway. One lap in which to decide this battle for second place in the final of the Honda CBR Challenge. It's a three-way fight, and we'll be back to see how it turns out in just a minute.
For racing.
Welcome back on Prime Network to the final lap showdown of the Honda CBR Challenge. At the moment, it's the battle for second place that's taking up all the interest. A moment there for Thomas Wilson. The tyre just losing adhesion for a second, but almost high-siding him, throwing him up into the air, but he clings on. And it's 280 Larry Locklear who's holding on to that second place at the moment. No doubt at all about the leader. He's pulled out a 5-second lead and could just cruise now to the checkered flag. That's Rick Kirk on the number 21 machine. Rick Kirk out of Claremore, Oklahoma, looks set to pick up the $5,000 for winning this race. Wilson back into second place. Thomas Wilson in second. Larry Locklear in third position. Just bringing up the rear there of that group, it's Jamie Brown, but Jamie Brown has dropped back a little bit now. The race leader, Rick Kirk, heading towards the checkered flag, but still the battle for second has to be resolved. And into the lead in that battle goes Larry Locklear. As he goes into the chicane, has Larry Locklear made his move too soon? Can he hold on around the banking? It's Locklear from Wilson with Bowman at the back of that group. Second, third and fourth. Larry Locklear on the all-black bike, holding the advantage in the fight for second place. But those two men behind him mean business, and they're out to get his scalp. The checkered flag for Rick Kirk, there was no doubt about that, but Locklear gets the treatment first from Wilson and then from Bowman. And it's one of the closest finishes imaginable as Wilson, Bowman and Locklear finish in that order. The winner, though, is Rick Kirk. Thomas Wilson takes second place by the narrowest of margins from Jamie Bowman. And Larry Locklear, well, he has to settle for fourth position. We thought he may have made his move too soon, and it proved to be the case. In fifth place, John K. Choate. Sixth is Jeff Hino. In seventh, Danny Roberts. And eighth, Billy N. Eisenacher. A terrific final Honda CBR showdown at the Daytona Speedway. But no doubt at all that the $5,000 first prize has found a good home with Rick Kirk. He rode absolutely brilliantly, and he rides into victory lane to be joined by Thomas Wilson and Jamie Bowman. And in victory lane, the three victors are talking with Dennis Torres.
Rick, you're the favorite going in, as we discussed this morning, and it looked flawless out there. Any problems?
Yeah, well, you know, sometimes favorites don't always come through, but everything worked really well for us this race. And, you know, I had some fortunate breaks, you know, getting through the pack, and just tried to ride as smooth as I possibly could.
We clocked you in one of the laps at a 1:59. You didn't seem to let up at all.
No, that was kind of comfortable to me. You know, I wanted to save something, so if somebody put on a charge late in the race, maybe I had a little left.
Tom, that was a tremendous battle for second place. It looked like Larry Locklear was practicing his draft maneuver every lap. He came over the start-finish line first, but you had something up your sleeve in that final lap.
Yeah, it just ended up working out just right. Bowman was right behind me, and between the two of us, I think that's what it took to catch him. Both of us drafting together, and the draft was timed perfect. It couldn't have been any better.
Take me through the final last half of the lap, coming out of the chicane. What was your strategy? Was it an improvisational type of strategy, or did you have it all in your mind throughout the whole final part of the lap?
Well, I definitely wanted to be careful because I knew I had third, if nothing else. I want to get a good drive and not slip. I figured I could catch him and get in this draft. He went down low right away. I didn't really want to do that, but I had to suck up to him in the draft. And ended up working just fine.
Jamie, a nice third-place finish in front of the home folks.
Yeah, it was a tough race, you know. We were all out there battling out. They were getting me through the infield, coming off the turns a little bit harder, but I'd get them down in the chicane and on the brakes a little. And the draft, I worked the draft a lot, helped me out a real lot.
What was the strategy coming out of the chicane for the final lap?
Well, when they both drafted past me here, I had a chance to go past Tom in the first horseshoe. I decided not to do that, just wait to come out of the chicane and get a real good drive out of there and see if I could work the draft to the start-finish line.
Join us again for more motorcycling madness on Prime Network.